School here at Washingtonville High School. Tonight, for the first time, we're hosting the Not One More program. The Not One More program involves several agencies working together to bring attention to the too many vehicular fatalities and injuries involving our young people. Car accidents are the leading killer among 16 and 24-year-olds here in our nation. A majority of those accidents occur on Fridays and Saturdays. May and June are the leading months for car accidents among teenagers. And as you know, this time of year, we celebrate our proms, our banquets, and our graduations. Distracted driving, inexperience, alcohol, drugs, high speeds are major contributors to car accidents among teens. Last week, we gave our juniors a pretty graphic and realistic view of what can happen when a teenager makes a poor decision. As I told you last week also, I've been around this town for over 30 years. I've lost classmates, friends, students, kids that I coached to car accidents here in Washingtonville and Blooming Grove. Tonight, we are very fortunate to have with some folks who so graciously volunteered to speak to you about their experiences and share their losses with you. Briefly, I'll introduce some of the folks that are here to speak to you. We have Chief Carl Shupp from the Blooming Grove Police Department. Officer Kevin Drake from the Blooming Grove Police Department. Tom Murray from Curtis Funeral Home. Kathy Sheehan, Nurse Manager at Cornwall St. Luke's. Detective Surgeon Allen from Washingtonville Police Department. Officer Anderson from the Washingtonville Police Department. And I want to send a special thank you to Mr. Brian Stromer. Mr. Stromer is a Washingtonville alumni who tragically lost a brother and a son to car accidents here in our town. Finally, I'd like to introduce Mr. John Jones. John Jones runs the Not One More program. John Jones has over 20 years in law enforcement, dealing specifically with car accidents around our county. He will share with you his experiences and also offer you some advice, some warnings about making good decisions behind the wheel and about being a good passenger and about distracted driving. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. John Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Conlon. Great crowd, Washingtonville. Thank you so much for coming out, and your parents. My name is John Jones. I'm from the Orange County Stop PWI and Traffic Safety Programs. I've been working for the program now for about 6 years. Prior to that, I was a police officer for 20. In 17 of those 20 years, I was in traffic safety. I can't tell you how many times I had to do the ungodly deed of telling a parent or a family member that someone wasn't coming home, because it's horrible. It is everlasting. It is like cancer that doesn't go away. You're going to hear from people tonight that suffered that. You may know some people personally. For the next hour or so, I want you to please give your undivided attention to our speakers, because they are here to give you their real life stories, because I tell you it's real life. I truly believe in using our local people because they know what goes on in your locality, whether it's in the village, Washington, or the town of Blooming Grove. The Chief of Police, Carl Shupp, I've known for many, many years. Prior to police work, 20 years in law enforcement, he's still there. I chose to leave police work because my mission was to prevent not one more from happening again. And not one more means not one more child dying or getting seriously hurt in a crash. And I didn't say accident, I said crash, because a crash is something that you did to cause it. An accident is simply an accident. Right now, this is our #1 killer of 16 to 24. The cell phone. The cell phone is the #1 killer right now between the ages of 16 and 24. Don't let that text be the last one you send. And don't let the text be the last one that you read. And don't let the uniformed personnel drop the ungodly bomb to your family because someone's not coming home. We used to preach, don't drink and drive, don't do drugs, don't do this. I'm not going to say any of that. Because you know what? You're going to make choices in life. You're all good kids. Sometimes we make bad choices and bad decisions. But we don't want that bad choice to be the fatal, the one that you don't come home for, and the one that your parents suffer forever, the empty place setting for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, your empty room that you never go back to, all the memorabilia. You're not there to give your parents, grandparents, your grandkids, Christmases, all the holidays gone. Don't do that to your families. I know what it's like. I've been there. I've had to drop that ungodly bomb on personal friends to tell them that their kids aren't coming home. It's horrible. The kick, the scream, the punch, the yell is everlasting. And that big cop with the macho, with the hat, the gun, badge means absolutely nothing, because I feel like a stick of butter in July is going to melt. Because it's the only time in a police officer's career that we feel totally helpless. It's horrible. Please, for the next hour or so, undivided attention to our speakers, because we do what we do because we care. I do what I do because my mission is to prevent, not want more. We're in many school districts throughout this town, and I am so thankful to see a nice crowd here. And it's because, one, obviously you need the parking permit to park on school property, but as a parent here, you don't want to have to go through what some other people have gone through. So I thank you. Our first speaker, like I said, is a personal friend of mine. He's also the chief of police here in the town of Floating Grove. We shared some good stories together, but we shared some very, very sad stories. And he's going to share with you his true life story. Mr. Carl Schupp, known as you, Carl.
Nothing I'm going to say this evening is going to be profound. Nobody's going to be surprised by what I talk about in regards to distracted driving or driving under the influence, or the consequences associated with each. No one's going to walk out of here thinking that the chief said something that they never ever thought about. And that's because the way to avoid accidents, crashes, the way to keep yourself safe is common sense. You young people need to be responsible drivers. You need to buckle up, you need to slow down, you need to think, you need to pay attention to the matter at hand. Now, I graduated from this high school many, 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 many years ago. And like you, I liked a lot of things about high school. You young men and women, you come to school, you want to chat it up with your friends. Maybe you play on a sports team. You're excited about a game that's going to be held in the evening. Maybe you play in the band. And you're looking forward to the concert that's coming up. When the bell rings, however, and you got to go into school, you got to go to class, you got to put all that ancillary stuff I just talked about, you got to put it on the side burner for a little while. And that's because you got to pay attention to what your teacher is trying to impart to you. Now this repeats, what, 6 or 7 times a day. But you have to focus. You have to focus in regards to what you're doing. Well, let's say you're a young male student. Maybe you're a junior, maybe you're a senior at Washington High School. And you have a job after school. So after all your classes, you jump in your car, and you're going down to Woodbury Commons, because that's where you work. You make a right on the 94 out of the school, left on the Hudson Road, right on the 208, left on the 17th. Somewhere along your travels, your cell phone, the text indicator makes a noise. You look down, and to your happiness, to your utter surprise, it's your dream girl returning a text message that you sent her earlier. She's accepted your invitation to dinner Friday night. and you look a little bit more closely, dividing your time between looking at the phone and looking at the road, to make sure it's not a friend of yours pranking. And when you look and you see it's the number and it's the girl of your dreams, you start staring at that a little bit longer and you look at everything that she's telling you. And because you decided not to pull over and read her message, because you decided to continue to drive and read her message, that message you're reading from the girl of your dreams, you have turned your travels to the Woodbury Commons into a nightmare. Maybe you get to Hudson Road and you're looking at the belly of an oak tree. Oak trees don't lose fights with cars. They never do. Maybe you're on Route 208, wondering, why is this guy in my lane? But no, you're in his lane. You're traveling south in the northbound lane. Maybe you've reached Route 17, the quick road. And that tractor trailer that was in front of you, a good enough distance, is now right in front of you because he's experiencing mechanical difficulty. And the last thing you see before you smash into the back of that truck is that sign that says on his door, "How's my driver? Call 1-800. When you're sitting in a classroom, the chair you're sitting in, it's not moving. When you get in your car, the chair you're sitting in, that sucker's moving. And if you're moving at 55 miles an hour, you're eating up 80 feet of road per second. And if you're staring at that girl's text and you're reading it, and that goes on for several seconds, then you do the math. You're traveling and you're eating up a lot of road and you're not even seeing that road. You need to be responsible drivers. You need to buckle up. You need to slow down. You need to think. You need to pay attention to the matter at hand. Now those three scenarios, two of them happened very recently. A young man, 38 years old to you, young to me, traveling north on 208, looks down at his phone, tells me just to see who called. He looks up, he's traveling north in the southbound lane. He hits a young woman with a baby in her car, strapped in the car seat. By the time I get there, that young man, that 38-year-old, he's on the floor, he's on the ground of on the road, and he's crying. No doubt, thinking about what could have happened. He could have taken that child from the mother from the child. To do what? To look at her phone, to see who's calling. A young girl going from Chester to the Woodbury Commons to her job is on 17. Tractor trailer is struggling up Blooming Grove Hill because of mechanical failure. She doesn't see him. She sees him soon enough to lock him up. She still hits the back of the truck. But luckily for her, it's not involved in a second impact with a secondary vehicle. I just happened along. Called the state police, they handled the accident on 17. Young lady's crying so much she's having trouble breathing. She's a lucky girl. You young drivers, for as long as you possibly can, you need to operate your cars like you did when you first got your driving permit. When you had mom sitting next to you, dad in the back seat, dad in the front seat, mom in the back seat, your hands were 10-2 on the steering wheel, you were scanning like you're supposed to be scanning, signaling when and how you're supposed to be signaling. You need to keep that attentiveness as long as you possibly can. Are you going to do it when you get as old as me and been driving this long? No. And I know that, and you know that. But you also will have 45 years of experience driving. I've been a police officer for 33 years, all with Blooming Grove. I've been a supervisor for 27 of those years. I don't say that to impress anybody. It's nothing to be impressed about. In 33 years, we've had 3 homicides in Bloomingdale. It's a real safe town. I've been the lead investigator in 0 of them. Serious assaults, armed robberies, rape, 1 rape. We've had a handful, maybe less, nothing inordinate. I've been the lead investigator on those 0 times. There may be some members of the New York City Police Department in the audience, maybe some members of the state police in the audience. And even though I'm much younger than them, and been on a job a lot longer than them, they have much more experience investigating serious crimes than I do. But unfortunately for me, horrifically unfortunately for me, there isn't a police chief in Orange County, there isn't a police officer in Orange County that has made more death notifications, has gone to the homes of parents and tell them that their children are not coming home than me. It was 31 years ago that I made my first death notification. Chief of police at the time was ill. He needed me to do it. We went to a house in Washingtonville, an officer and myself. Me being the senior officer, I had to do the talking. This young girl was killed because she was with someone who was drunk, and he hit a tree. She died, he did not. When I told the mother and father what had happened, the mother slapped me across the face, screaming at me, "Liar, liar, liar." She hit me so hard, it backed me up 2 steps. It took at least a minute for those gold stars you get sometimes when you overstrain yourself to get up quickly to clear from my vision. At the same time, the girl's father went tearing up the stairs, screaming her name. And when he opened up the door and saw that the bed was empty, at that time he probably figured the police were accurate as to what happened. The screams that came out of that man's mouth, the shrieks, the wails, was something at that time in my life I had never heard before. I learned early on as a supervisor that it might be a good idea to have an ambulance nearby when you have to make a notification. Over 23 years ago, a young man from this high school who just got done, he was quite a musician from what I remember, just got done with a concert, and his girlfriend from Cornwall, another musician from the Cornwall band, perished in a car accident on 208 North, just outside the village of Washington. No alcohol involvement. More than likely, the reconstructionists from our department felt it was driver inattention, driver inexperience, more than likely speed. Chief of police at the time took one of his own sons, because we were so short-handed that night, and went into Campbell Hall to notify the parents of the boy who went to Washington School. He sent me and another officer to Cornwall. Standing in their huge house, their huge foyer, telling their parents that their daughter had been killed in a car accident. The mother fainted in front of us. My partner called an ambulance and attended to the mother, and I followed the father up the stairs, screaming, just like the other father. He opened the door so violently I thought the door was coming off the hinges. In the huge bedroom, an empty bed. He fell to his knees. He cried, screaming out her name, pleading with her to know how much he loved her. At the same time, pulling the comforter off the bed completely. And when he had it all off, he hugged it as if he was hugging his daughter. And finally, I had to learn a lesson from a senior officer that when you have to do this horrific task, and you got to tell a mother that her son was killed in a car accident, you only use the words killed, died, or died. Senior officer told the mother that her son expired. The young man's brother, who just turned 16, they just celebrated his 16th birthday, ran to the back of the house, turned right around, came back to me, hugged me, cried, screamed, pushed me away from him and said, "Officer, just tell me, is my brother alive or dead?" When I told him his brother was dead, his world collapsed just like he did around my feet. Don't you ever think that the dumb decisions you make behind the wheel of a car, especially if it involves alcohol, affects only you. If you believe that, you are pathetically wrong. You ever go to a graduation? Who goes to graduation? Parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, cousins, friends. Your stupidity behind the wheel, you kill yourself for somebody else, you destroy them. Hell, you destroy a little bit of every emergency service worker that arrives at that scene. People that don't share the same last name as you. People that are not related to you whatsoever by blood or any other means. I get that call in the middle of the night. My hands shake so bad I can't wash my face in the shower. I puke until there's nothing to puke. I dry heave until my stomach aches. Because I start hearing the screams, I start seeing the pain. I know what's in store for me, but worse yet, I know what's in store for the parents. The hell that they're going to go through. Don't you dare get in a car when you've been drinking and get behind the wheel. Don't you dare get in a car with someone who's been drinking and gets behind the wheel and is going to drive you home or drive you anywhere. Because if you do, at that moment in your life, you will never be more selfish than at that very moment. You be responsible drivers. You buckle up. You slow down. You think, and you pay attention to the matter at hand.
Thank you, Chief Shutt. The Chief's message is quite clear. He goes back 30 plus years, and he graduated from here. He knows what goes on here. He probably knows a bunch of your parents, maybe even grandparents, maybe even more. Who knows? But he knows. He speaks from the heart because he has children of his own, and he is dedicated to the Not One More program because he just does not want to see the community here go through it again. Thank you, Chief. Our next speaker is someone that we teamed up together probably 4 or 5 years ago, and we've been going around doing high school education programs and health classes, our Not One More program. She was part of the first Not One More program that we debuted at the Washingtonville High School in 2008. She's become a personal friend of mine. She's actively involved in her community, but now she's part of everybody's because not only is she in charge of the emergency room in Newburgh, but she's also in charge of the emergency room in Cornwall. Without further ado, Nurse Kathy Sheehan.
Good evening, everyone. Wow, this is awesome. The house is packed and it's wonderful. Chief, you were great. I'm a little bit scared. I'm even afraid to drive home. But thank you so much for the message. And I hope the kids really, really listen. because it really, really sucks when you have to be the one to tell someone. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I've been a nurse for almost 30 years. I've been in the emergency department for the last 18. I did bedside just until a year ago, so I'm not far removed from the bedside. And I'm always out there helping the nurses, even though I'm the manager now. I've seen a lot. We do some awesome things. We get to deliver babies. We get to bring people back from the brink of death if they've stung by a bee and they're allergic to it. People coming in with heart attacks, and we give them medicine, and they're just about dead, and then we get them back, and we do really, really great things. And then we do some awful things, but it's all part of the job. So think about what Chief said about being at the scene, and I'm going to take you on the journey a little bit further, because I wouldn't want to be at the scene. It's bad enough what I have to deal with, but the thoughts of what happens to the body when they're out there, and how the patients are just in that position until they can get at least cleaned up a little bit. So I want you to know, besides being a nurse, I'm a mother of 2 young adults now. When I started this program with John, they were teenagers. Both of my kids have been involved in car accidents. Neither was hurt terribly, but my older son, a week after, he was coming home from Quinnipiac, where he went to college. He's already graduated, and we were going up to spring break. We were going to Dominican Republic, so he had just finished his midterms. And he called me at exit 6 in Connecticut and said, "Mom, I crashed the car." And I said, "Are you okay?" And we went and picked him up because his car was demolished. He wasn't drinking, he wasn't using his phone, but he was probably a little bit tired from doing the midterms. He seemed okay. And I said, "Do you want to get checked out? I'll take you into the ER." "No, I'm okay." So we went on vacation a couple hours later. Thank God we made the plane. And when we landed and drove up from Philly and got home, 15 minutes later, he had a grand mal seizure, the first time ever. He had gone, it was March Madness, he had gone to watch basketball with his buddy, never made it in the house. He had a skull fracture, dislocated both of his shoulders, fractured his shoulders. He came to and didn't realize what was happening, and then called us, and we went over. And it was probably caused by the car accident the week before. So things affect us all. Thank God he was okay. So let me tell you what it's like in the ER. So I work in Newburgh in Cornwall. Probably many of you have been there for different reasons. In Newburgh, we have 4 trauma rooms, because many times, being where it is located, sometimes people call it the hood, we can get many traumas at once. So we get all set up if we're going to get a trauma. But when you get a car crash, it's usually it's not right in the city of Newburgh. The red phone that we have designated for special terrible things coming in will ring. And either a doctor will pick up the red phone or one of the nurses, and you can just tell as they're listening to the report from EMS that we're getting something crabby. So someone will hang up and say, "Listen, we're getting a car crash and it's a kid," because you guys are our kids. And they'll tell us what's happening, and then right away, where are we getting the kid from? Because I know kids in Wallkill, Walden, Montgomery, Washingtonville, Cornwall. You kind of want to know because the mom inside of you as a nurse wants to know if you're going to know the kid. So they tell us what we're getting, what the injuries are, and what the ETA is. And then we go to work. We run into the trauma room, we set up the monitors, we set up IVs. I call the blood bank to get O-negative blood. We get all the carts ready, we turn on the defibrillator, because we're really good at what we do. Lots of years of experience go into this. And then I kind of say a little prayer. I say a prayer that you're going to survive. I say a prayer that I don't know you. And I say a prayer that someone's going to reach out and call your mom and dad, because the moms and dads deserve to know what's happening to their kid. So we only have a few seconds, but we get ready. And then it's just a blur. EMS comes in. If they're doing CPR, that's not a good sign. If there's a lot of blood, it's not a good sign, but everybody has something to do. The team jumps in, and we work like a well-oiled machine because we know what to do and we know how to try and save you guys. And we'll go about it, and I'm saying the whole time, where's the mom? Where's the dad? Did anyone call the mom and dad? As we're putting you on the monitor, we're starting the IVs, we're getting the blood into you. What's going on? Somebody get me the kid's cell phone. I'm going to see if I can call the mom. Because as the mom, I want to be there. I don't want anyone to take that from me if I know this kid's going to die. So we work, and if the parents do arrive, we put them in this little room called the family room. Now, when we renovated and made it nice and brand new, I had plants in there, beautiful pictures, but I'll explain why in a minute while it's just down to the bare minimum. If the parents arrive while we're still working on the kid, I will step away, tell the doctor I'm going to talk to the parents, and I'm going to be blunt with you and tell you that your kid's not doing good because you deserve the truth. And I'm going to give you the opportunity to come in and say goodbye to your kid if I think you can handle it. If you're throwing yourself on the floor, you're hitting your head on the ground, I can't bring you in there. But some parents will stoically say, take me to my son, take me to my daughter. And I'll bring you in, and I'll sit you in a chair, and you can watch us work. We're going to work to try and save your kid's life. And a lot of times, we'll let you see that, and then after a while, it becomes obvious that we're not going to be able to get your son or your daughter back. And then we call it, and it's over. It's maybe over for the team, maybe, but it's the beginning of hell for you parents. Because a piece of you dies when your kid dies. You're never going to be the same. Sure, your kid's gone. If you have faith, hopefully your kid's going to someplace nice. But for you, your hell just starts. And it's awful. And the screams, for men, the violence, because they punch walls, because there's testosterone, and they throw things. When we're in the family room, they've thrown everything. They've ripped everything off the wall. You learn how to bob and weave, and you don't take it personally. Moms puke. I had one mom who I knew, and it sucked because her kid grew up in our neighborhood in Wallkill. She wouldn't open her eyes for 2 hours. I kept saying, Joanne, come in, let's go in and see him. No, because if she didn't open her eyes, then it didn't exist, right? It wasn't real. I've been doing this for so long, and it really sucks. And you can't get the screams out of your head. And we as a team have to debrief. We'll step aside after, talk about it. I'll call the nurses and check on them. A couple weeks ago, we had an episode, and one of the nurses, strong guy, said he went home, he drank half a bottle of wine, he was pacing, he gave me a call in the middle of the night and we talked about it, because you got to get it out of your head. You have to just get it out. This is not enjoyable for me. I do not really like coming, but I feel that it's necessary. I really, really, really think you guys listen. And I want you to know that death does not discriminate. You guys are all great kids. You make some really shit-ass choices just as we did growing up, really stupid things we did. But think about what you do before you do it. My oldest son is now 23. He was with his girlfriend this weekend. He said, Mom, so-and-so's having a party. I said, that's great. How are you getting there? He said, you're driving me. I said, good. How are you getting home? He said, you're picking me up. I said, fantastic. I said, now listen, don't have a couple beers and think you're going to go home because I won't be there in 5 minutes. It'll take me 20. He went for 5 hours. They had a couple beers. They had some burgers. They had a great time. I went and picked him up. That's how it needs to be. Even if you screw up and you're young and you shouldn't be doing something, call your parents and have a plan, always. If you think that your relationship can't handle it, talk about it. Talk to an aunt, an uncle, an older sibling. Always have a plan. You want to get home safely. The cell phone is really a disease. And there's so many of you that you know it's like your third appendage, you just can't put it down. If you cannot trust yourself to keep that cell phone up in the front seat with you, even if you say, I'm not going to look, you know, even if I put on vibrate or silent, if you cannot trust yourself, put it in the trunk. Put it someplace where you won't reach for it because it only takes a couple seconds. You guys are inexperienced drivers. It's going to take a couple years till you even really should even be taking your eyes off the road. You cannot handle the texting and driving. You're really not that cool. You're not that great. I'm telling you, you need to think about these things, have a plan, and really, really make good choices. Have fun in life, but have a plan. And please, don't let the red phone ring for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. For years, as a police officer and investigating accidents, my first observation when I saw what a real bad crash was, I would hope that we would not deal with fatality and that we could get the person to the hospital, because I didn't want to do death penalties. And for years, I would say, just get me because I don't want to deal with this anymore. I don't want to deal with that. And how selfish for me, because it was horrible, because not until I met Kathy, I heard what goes on in the emergency when the nurses or the doctor have to do the notification. So, although for many, many years I said, you know, let's get them in the ambulance and get them to the hospital, when in fact maybe they were already deceased at the scene. And it wasn't until Kathy made this mention to me that I actually came to realize that shame on me. Because I was selfish, because I didn't want to do another one. In my police career, when I was 20 years, I did 17 death notifications. Chief, that's quite good, isn't it? 17 death notifications with another officer. So I think I have some experience in that. And it's horrible to say, but how do you develop experience in doing death notifications? It's horrible. Because it's final. Our next speaker is somebody that I kind of knew indirectly. And like I said, I believe in using the locals because the locals know one another. Tom Murray is the director of your local funeral home here. And he's going to tell you what happens when the family shows up at the funeral home. Mr. Tom Murray.
First of all, I don't know if I need this. Can everybody hear me in the back? So most of you know me from Ferguson Funeral. I'm going to do my tie because it's too tight. Some of your parents definitely know me. Some of you have been at the funeral. Some of your classmates, friends, brothers, sisters, cousins. A lot of people are affected. When I get a phone call in the middle of the night from somebody I might know or don't know, who I'm going to get to know for a few days that they're going to be at the funeral, saying, my son, my daughter was killed in a car crash. Or my husband or my wife was killed by a drunken driver, a teenager who was driving. My heart sinks. Because now I have to sit there, I have to go to the hospital, bring the person's body back. And now I have to deal with a family who's going to come in who's devastated. They'll come into the funeral home and you can just see their faces are dropping. They're talking very, very low. They're trying to tell me what happened, and I have to sit there and try to explain to them sometimes. There's nothing I can do. I can't. And I've been a funeral director for 19 years. I managed a funeral home in Holland down in the city for many years before I came up here and took over the funeral home in '98. I've dealt with more car crashes of students up here in '98 than I did in my 5 years of working in the city of Holland. And down in the city, we did 1,000 funerals a year out of one building. And I've still done more in the last 15 years up here. One graduating class, they lost, I think it was 5 students in car crashes. So, and I'm involved in the community, so I know a lot of these people. And they sit there. I had one family, his son's face really had trauma, bad trauma. I'm good at what I do, there was nothing I could do. He says, do the best you can, I want this casket open, because I want these kids to see what could happen if they make a bad decision. Bad decision, whether you're driving, getting into a car, affects you, it affects your family. It affects people who in the other car you might have injured or possibly killed. It's a rolling effect that affects everybody that has touched your lives, or lives that you have touched. You'll come to a wake at the funeral and you'll see people crying. You'll cry because you lost a friend, a brother, a sister. If you're just a friend, try to imagine what that family is going through. No more holidays. Having to see their son or daughter laying in a casket. Knowing that in a day or two, they're never going to see that face again except for a photograph. Knowing that they tried to talk to them. Parents, a lot of parents. My daughter's been around the funeral industry for 19 years. Do I have the benefit of taking my daughter and saying, listen, this is what can happen to you. This is what can happen if you make a bad decision. You affect a lot of people. Parents' lives are devastated. They never get over it. They never forget it. You move on. Definitely. That's what life is supposed to be. You're supposed to move on. But if there's a loss, you'll never fill a gap. I can't stress enough how many times people come to me, and I try to tell people. We had the Mike Mock fatality last week. I've seen people laughing through the entire process, the whole thing that went on. It goes beyond that, because now they have to come to me in the funeral. They have to sit with me. They have to make arrangements for burying their son or daughter. What shall they wear? How am I going to move forward? I have to sit there and tell them, it's going to be okay. It will. In time it will. But too many kids are making these decisions constantly. Looking, again, not even just right there and driving, look at your phone. Listen, I've made bad choices. I'm sure we all have. Look at your phone. You start to drift. It never, these roads up here are dangerous enough as they are. Dark, narrow, deer, you name it, you have to deal with it. If you take your eyes off that road for a second, or if you have even a couple of drinks in you, one drink is all it takes. You might think, you know what, I'm Superman, I can do it. It takes a minute. That's all it takes. For something tragic to happen, for someone's life to be ruined. That's all I have to say right now, but definitely, parents, if you need literature, I have literature. Tons of stuff. You cannot stress enough to your kids now. And kids, parents, guarantee them that you're not going to do any of this. And stick to it. You guarantee you're going to go to school, you're going to do your homework, you stick to it. This is so much easier a decision to make. And call, like I said, call your parents. They're not going to be mad. They might be mad at first, but you know what? They're going to be happy that you came home. And then you can sit down and talk about it. Something you do, if something happens, you have an accident, and you're killed in a car crash, you can't talk about it. You can't say you're sorry. You can't say, I'll never do it again. You don't get that second chance when you do something like that. So I can only stress that you don't have to worry about giving a second chance to do it now.
Thanks, Tom. Something that Kathy talked about, something I'm going to talk about real quick while the PowerPoint's coming up, and something that our next speaker is going to talk about is have a plan. Plan, kids, parents, guardians that you have here tonight. The plan is simple. Anytime during the day or night, your child's in a bad situation, whether it's drugs, alcohol, or maybe they're a passenger in the car, they don't like the way the driver is operating the vehicle. No questions asked. They pick up the phone, Mom and Dad. You need a ride. You come get them, because it's easier to get that than that in your front door. Because the ungodly knock on the front door is something that will never go away. Because the cop that shows up at the front door in the middle of the night is not there asking for a drink or something to eat. He's there to bring bad news about something. And when you know, as a parent, that your child is out, the first thing, and the ungodly thing that's going through your mind is, what's going on? Who is it? Our next speaker is Mr. Brian Stromer. He's a graduate of this high school. He's become a personal friend of mine, and it's our mission, as well as our panel of speakers, is to prevent not one more child dying. You're all good kids, but sometimes good kids make bad choices. And a bad choice is what cost the life of Brian's son, Mr. Brian Stromer.
Good evening. My name is Brian Stromer. This is my son, Brian. As John said, I'm a 1981 graduate of Washingtonville. So I know some that are here. I know some parents of the students here. Brian was a 2006 graduate of Washingtonville. Between 1981 and 2006, I had a 22-year career in the Navy. Lived all over the country. I grew up in Worley Heights in the same house with 3 brothers and 1 bathroom. And traveled all over the country with this guy, his older sister. I have 4 children. My oldest is 30, and my youngest is 8. 3 of them were born in November. I don't know if that has anything to do with the deployment cycle in the Navy or... When Brian was 8, what's often the case in the military, my family struggled with. My marriage to Brian's mother didn't survive. I was 22 years active duty, 14 years on ships, 12 at sea. So a lot to ask for my family. I was driven. I was a motivated, goal-oriented guy. And I can't help but think that part of my personality contributed to what ultimately led to Brian's choices. Because Brian died under the influence. He had a 0.15 blood alcohol level. Brian had THC in the system. But Brian doesn't have to live with that choice. I do. It was a gift. And for those fathers in the house that have sons, know this. And there's a special bond between the father and his oldest son. And I love all my children dearly. But there's a special gift, and I know that because I watched my own father enjoy that with my brother. It wasn't malicious, it just was a connection they had. And that's gone. So that died with Brian's choice. Like I said, he was well-traveled, lived in Hawaii, a couple different places in Florida, California, Virginia, all kind of nice climated areas. And then in 2000, we came back to New York. My family always celebrated milestones together. In this picture is the 2 young ones. That's Kira and Owen at Owen's graduation from pre-K. My father, my wife Sharon on the far left, my mother, Brandy, my oldest daughter, my in-laws. Brian's in the back with a goofy hat on. And you're going to notice in the pictures, Brian was like a chameleon. I never knew what he was going to look like. One day he'd have long hair, the next day his head was shaved, he had a beard, he had these goddamn plugs in his ears, what are they? Gauges, right? Gauge. I never knew what he was going to look like. He always had that smile, that gift picture that I showed you, or that I showed earlier, that really was Brian, and that's always present. Another one of the events we celebrated, it's the last time I remember laughing so hard. And that was my mother's 70th birthday, which was just about 8 months before Brian died. Because of the choice he made. Blood alcohol, 0.15, THC. He had some cool experiences, and having traveled all over the country, this was where I learned of my first failure as a father. That's him in the picture there at the Meadowlands Giant Stadium. It's a Cincinnati game in preseason August. He was doing the coin toss. Pretty cool. He was a Dallas Cowboy fan. I said, Brian, really? The Cowboys? You couldn't pick a worse crowd, maybe the Eagles, but couldn't even go outside the division? But you know, he grew up in the 90s, and that's what he knew. We lived outside of New York. He was the son of a Cowboy or a Giant fan. And he knew of the Giants, didn't know, he didn't have the passion the way I did. You were born and raised. If you're from here, you know what I'm talking about. You're a Jet fan or a Giant fan. In the military, when you're moving people around, you sort of latch on to America's team. Cowboys, America's team. Guess he's in 8th grade there. So 2 towers and my son all around. Choices. Brian was a great brother. He was special with his younger brother and sister. Loved him with all his heart. I just recently learned that my youngest doesn't remember. Damn. That took my breath away when I learned that one of my kids doesn't remember that. Think about that for a second. How many of you have siblings? Imagine them not being able to remember you. It's a tough pill to swallow. As a parent, an impossible pill. But one that I know. Because my brother, under similar circumstances, speed, alcohol, maybe marijuana, I don't know, 20 years, almost to the day, 3 miles away. Died in a single car accident. So I had the benefit of watching my parents survive burying a child. But I got over that much quicker than they did. So while Kira's latest revelation to me kicked me in the gut, I got it. I understood. It's what we do. We move on. It sucks. It's real. So that's left picture there. It's Brian and Owen, my 2 sons. Then Brandy, the oldest, with my niece. And then on the far right is my oldest niece and Kira, my youngest daughter. And then Brian and Owen. Brian was spoiled with weather. The climate was always nice where we lived. He lived in that damn hoodie. I don't care if it was 90 degrees out. He was always cold. Excuse me. Again, just some pictures of family. While my marriage didn't work the first time, fortunately she was nice looking because I made nice looking kids. Second one was the same way. She's still with me. That's Brian and Randy on the left. That's all four on the right. Tattoos. I have my own theories about the tattoos. I think this was when Brian and Brandy lost their mom to divorce because they stayed with me, which is rare. Even more rare to maintain a life of service where I had to leave. Meant that literally my whole family was involved in raising my older two. And I think they wore that pain with tattoos and piercings, and these are conversations we have a lot. You see who wins those conversations. And I don't know how many are going through that now. Anybody talking about tattoos or piercings? That's a fun time. Kira is sort of Brian in drag. This was a Halloween before Brian died, and that's probably my favorite outfit that I ever saw him in. And he only wore it a couple of times. He wore it to a wedding. This is a wedding as well. So 2 weddings, a christening. I think that was it. And for the funeral, because that's what I gave the funeral for him. He was more comfortable in Hollister t-shirt and tight jeans and some kind of skateboard shoes. That's how he dressed. But this is how I like to think of it. In fact, this is the tie. There's that hoodie again. So, the funeral director calls me because of the nature of Brian's accident. The funeral director calls me and says, listen, the suit that you got, or that you gave me, is not going to work. Brian died on Saturday morning. We got into the car accident around 1:50 in the morning. It was a holiday weekend. Because it was a crime, there's an autopsy. It took time. The autopsy happens, Brian's body is delivered to the funeral home, and the funeral director calls me and says, yeah, the suit's not going to work. I said, well, make it work. That's what I want. And he said, yeah, listen, we have to figure something else out. And he's talking to a 22-year Navy veteran who makes things happen. I said, figure it out. This is your thing. Figure it out. And then he got to get graphic and specific. His neck is 3 times the normal circumference. And the suit's not going to work. I can't hide his neck. So it doesn't occur to me to close a casket. I'm Irish Catholic. It used to be you propped him up in the corner, popped a bottle of scotch, and toasted him off. So this wasn't something I even thought about. Closed casket never even entered my mind. Should have been done. Two of my favorite guys. One, I think, went on an extra year for me to help me through. Because when you bury a child, It changes you. And he got that. And how you deal with loss, because every one of us know what loss is. That's not unique to Brian Stromer. That is universal. Everybody's felt some kind of loss in their life. And how you deal with that, it changes you. And I could sit down with my father at his place, not say 2 words, and get home. Because that first year was tragic for me. I slept 2 or 3 hours a day. Don't know how I functioned. You know, my goal really was to get through each moment, and then through each hour, and then through each day. And the other part was to stay out of the bottom of a bottle and off a shrink's chair. And I did none of that well. None of it. So Brian was very tactile. If he could touch it, he could figure it out, he could learn it, and he could do it. I think if you were to speak to his teachers, he'd tell you, they tell you he was an unremarkable student. Sort of, that's how I was. And in fact, extremely unremarkable in terms of grades. I was a pretty popular kid, but school wasn't my thing. Didn't change my story, but you know, and I heard Carl Schutt, you know, he's a Washingtonville graduate, and he's using this vocabulary, answer. Wow. Washington, that's right, you're smart guys. You better believe it. But it's the small words that trip you up. Right, the tiny words. If I said to Brian that night, make sure you call me, does that poem change the road not traveled? What happens if I stayed married to his mother, is Brian alive today? If, little word. Love the scars. That is not his car. Worked at a family business, the Woodcock Mountain Auto. He loved working on his car. He had a Subaru. It was orange. He called it Nickelodeon orange. Sort of like a house. Is that orange or is that red? So you remember 4 years ago, an orange car floated through the village. That was my son. There it is. There's the orange. Loved the people he worked with. Great sense of humor. Spend any time with Brian, and he can imitate you. You can walk out of the room and he can imitate you. He's a funny kid. His best friend Dylan. What do you see in the eyes there? What do you think's going on? What do you think? So, it wasn't uncommon for me to walk into his room on a Saturday or Sunday morning, smell the alcohol, and say, how did you get home? And Dylan would be there, maybe one other kid. And I'd say, how'd you get home? And they got home safely. Or I would say to him, Brian, are you smoking dope? What do you think he said? It's weed, Dad. Yeah, I'll get high. But it's weed, it's no big deal. It killed him. It killed him. Listen to me. It killed him. So the 3 guys on the right, and there's the chameleon in the middle, long hair, beard. I never knew what he was going to look like. But that emotion never changed. I could spot that kid a mile away. good-looking boy. Again in the hoodie, red eyes, best friend. I think Tom Murray said it best. You move on. Because what happens the day after you bury your friend? What do? Because Dylan I haven't seen but 3 times since Brian died. The other guy, maybe a half dozen times. There's really only 2 people that keep in touch. Only 2. It's disappointing. It's kind of sad. This is your choice. I remember, I really like this. She had a nice effect on Brian. I think Brian struggled with relationships because of what I showed him, the marriage that broke up. Right? So I think he had a hard time committing. It was hard for him to see his mom never after we divorced. That was terrible. But I remember Therese sitting at our kitchen table when she was studying to become a teacher, and they were doing homework. And I'm watching, and I'm thinking, God, if he could just grab this one, hang on to this one. This one's got a nice influence on it, but you don't get to pick. And I swear to you, with Brandy, when she'd bring a guy home, if I liked him, I never saw him again. And if I said anything wrong, he was always last. So I'd start to say, whatever you plan on doing with my daughter, I plan on doing with you. That kept the crumbles away. But we loved having Therese around. So when Brian died, so did Therese. And think about this. All you girls here, if you have a boyfriend, think about this. Think about him being dead and what you have to live with. That's hard. That's tough. I refer to this as Brian's signature look simply because it was 2 weeks before he was killed. Again, he's got those damn gauges in his ears, scruffy look. Handsome kid, nice kid. He was a good kid that did some bad things, made some bad choices that he does not live with anymore. That's my job. I think this is probably as accurate a picture as I have of Brian, because he was a kind, and he is a kind soul. Skateboard, somewhere at night, hopefully not doing damage with the skateboard, but that was his thing. Questions? This is where we interact. Go ahead. Questions? Nobody has a question. Nothing's off limits, I'll be honest. Ask the questions. Drugs, alcohol, speed, poorly lit road, maybe a deer. I don't know. I don't get to ask. Go ahead. You got a question? Come on.
Right. Can you, for the benefit of the kids, can you describe how that night actually went as far as you know? Because I think it's important for the kids to understand when they're behind the wheel of a car or someone else is behind the wheel of a car, how quickly and how dangerous that can go wrong.
All right, so that's Dr. Casey, for those who don't know. I don't know because I grew up with him. That's a great question. And Brian came from Bourbon Street. He left Bourbon Street and was killed minutes from the time he left. There was drinking involved. There was drugging, getting high. And he left Bourbon Street and was dead 5 minutes later. And he was Bourbon Street's about 7 miles from where he was. So high risk. High risk. What else? Brian, did I answer the question?
Yes.
Can you tell us what happened to the driver of the car that killed Brian?
What do you mean?
Didn't he go to jail?
How many people thought Brian was driving? Brian was not driving. Brian was a passenger. Brian died needlessly on Labor Day weekend, 2010. Completely avoidable. Unnecessarily dead. He's a passenger. The decision he made was to get in the car with his best friend, who was under the influence as well. He trusted the wrong guy. This country is founded on risk. Our forefathers took a risk, revolted against Great Britain, and that's how we came to be. The medical advances in this country are based on risk. This is not the kind of risk that we should be taking. This is foolish. Go ahead, I saw a hand.
Was one of Brian's best friends driving Brian?
His best friend. A Walden man is arrested after a car accident leaves a 22-year-old dead. The crash happened just before 2 a.m. Saturday on 208 in the town of Bloomingdale. So that picture was between Woodcock and the village of Washingtonville. The car was facing south. They were heading north. The reconstruction indicated somewhere around 90 miles an hour. Ridiculous. So that family that I am so thankful for looked like this. Eyes sunken, sleep deprived, heartbroken. So 17 times you heard that somebody had to make a notification. That's tough. That's a lot of cortisol. That's a lot of adrenaline going through your body. Probably softens your brains. I don't know what the long-term effects of being put under those conditions over and over again are, but I can tell you what living them feels like. As I said, three of the kids were born in November. November was a fun time. Thanksgiving, my favorite holiday. Brady and Brian's birthday was on each side of it. Football, food, no gift given. I love this. 3 birthdays are changed. Didn't lose just a brother and a son. Maybe his future, because with Brian, my grandchildren died. His wife died. I never get to meet them. A year and 5 months later, I'm standing in court, and I spoke to Therese that morning and said, because I was conflicted, and I said, Therese, what are your thoughts? What do you think Brian would want? And she said, I don't think he'd want Dylan in jail. I think she was right. But I also know that Brian wanted to live. And he wasn't offered that opportunity. 2 months after the car accident, this knucklehead in the Senate is at a Halloween party in a Spider-Man costume, getting high and drinking, and posts it on Facebook, and it lands in my lap. So I call him up and I'm like, Dylan, what are you doing? Because I went to see him the day after the accident. I went to the hospital because he went out of precaution. He really is fine physically. And I said to him, listen, you did a horrible thing. I don't know how you're going to get through this. You have got to dig. You have got to dig deep. You got to get through this. Don't let this define you. This can go the wrong way. You need to make lemonade out of lemons. And what did he do? He spit in my face and posted some BS on Facebook. So I called him up and I said, what are you doing? He said to me, and I'm explaining to the judge, he had 2 options in his mind. Get the partying in now because he knows he's going to jail, which is untrue. I'd have thought, had he done something like this with me, because how powerful would that be for you to hear from him how he killed his friend? And believe me, he didn't mean to. Or he could do something positive. So his choice was, get it out of the way now, or I'll do something positive later. Okay. Okay, dope. Because now I'm coming. And you do not want to be on the other end of this at a sentencing. Because I'm coming. You do not want to be on the other end of a grieving parent. I learned that day he failed every urinalysis that the county gave. Blows me away. The system failed. That's not as important as the choices you make are lifelong. He pleads to aggravated vehicular homicide. Dylan Knapp is a murderer. He's a convicted murderer. That's my oldest. I can't think of a more accurate picture of that day. She's holding her chest because she can't get the words out. And I remember what she was saying. He didn't just kill my brother, he killed my family. That's how she felt. That's not true, but that's how she felt. And she struggles with that to this day. I want you to think again, those who raise their hands and have siblings, speaking for those siblings when their friend kills them. This was really startling to me. He gets sentenced to 4 to 12, the gavel hits, the deputy sheriff's on him, pulling the tie off him because they don't want him to hang himself in the cell, and they shackle him and walk him out. 15 seconds, I'm standing there, shocked. It was surreal. But it wasn't just me that felt that way. His family was shocked. Because his mother came up to me at the end and said, are you happy now? What? Am I what? Am I happy now? Because I'm trying to think of who's the winner here. Who won this one? Dylan's in jail. John Blaine, the other passenger, is ruined for life. And Brian's dead. I don't hear any winners. And she's lucky. She's lucky. She's dead now too. And Dylan went to her funeral in shackles. I really appreciate your patience tonight. So I want you to walk away with just 2 takeaways. Be aware. Know who you're with, what you're doing, what the plan is, if chemicals are involved, have a plan. Not a standing plan where you speak to mom, you spoke to her 3 weeks ago, you know you can count on it. Every time you walk out the door and you're going to go to a party, have a plan. Talk to your parents. The studies are staggering. If you speak with your parents or parents with your children, you're 60% less likely to ever have to face this. That's a huge number. That's a huge number. Remember I said Washingtonville people are smart? Let me tell you how smart you guys are. They polled parents and children, these same parents and children, and said, parents, how many of you believe that your child experimented with drugs or alcohol at the age of 15 or older? 80% of them said no. The kids, 60% of them said they haven't. You're smarter than we are. 60% said they had experimented with drugs or alcohol at the age of 15, and their parents had no idea. Listen, parents don't see it. They don't like to hear their baby's ugly. You guys do ugly things sometimes. It's okay. I'm not encouraging anything except dialogue, conversation, to avoid the if. And be aware. And beware. Because I'm not judging you. I've been there. I was in the Navy 22 years, traveled the world, did all kinds of things. I ain't judging. But the state will. And they're hard on this offense. He's in prison right now. And he's a slight kid. Let your imagination run and think about what he's doing this very minute. Because Brian laid there rotting for hours, he couldn't donate his organs. Maybe this will help save a life. Don't be a picture on some stupid t-shirt. Be good to yourselves. No one's going to look after you better than you. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't even know where to leave off right now. You know, it's sentimental because he's from here, his family's still here, he's got kids that are coming up through here. He's a figure in your community, he loves being here. He's been to all those different places that we talked about, Hawaii and San Diego, and he chose to come back to here because his roots are here, his family's still here. I thank you for sharing that story. Unbelievable. Real life tragedy that could have been avoided. The planning people, I ask you all to have a plan with your child. Parents, take the time to have a plan each and every time. No questions asked. Do the plan. And parents, I just want to touch base on two things. We understand that driving is a privilege, and you have to give consent to your child to get their permit and their driver's license. And everything costs money, and everything is a test involved. But if your child is driving so badly, and you don't know what to do, you can always pick up the phone and call the local police department for guidance and advice on what to do. But now, kids, you're probably going to dislike me for what I have to tell you. and what I'm going to tell your parents. In the New York State DMV website, section MV-1W, it's a half sheet of paper. I'm going to read what the top of it says. New York State Department of Motor Vehicles, withdraw of consent. If your parent feels that you're not listening to them, you're in violation of the vehicle and traffic laws. And there is some proof on file with the local police departments that you're getting tickets. It can be backed up. Your parent will fill this out and send it to motor vehicle. You will be called into an administrative law judge. It has nothing to do with a judge local. It's an administrative law judge, and your license will be taken from you. Don't let your parent do that. But parent, understand that you have the right to take that. And we need to know this, and you need to know this, because it has to stop. We need to prevent not one more. I thank Washingtonville School District for allowing us to be here tonight. Great response from parents. Please take the information. I will now turn it back over to your principal.
Once again, I want to thank the students for coming out tonight, and the parents for supporting us and supporting this program. I particularly want to thank John Jones for approaching us and bringing this program here to Washington, and the panel, sharing their experiences and their stories. As Brian said, again, being a local guy, we're all wizards here, and we want happy and healthy students. We want you to enjoy the wonderful times that you have coming forth. We want you to do it safely. And again, I thank you, and again, I thank the folks for coming out tonight. Thank you. Good night.